Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Susan Shumsky. She is the author of Miracle Prayer, 9 Steps to Creating Prayers That Get Results. If any of you have wondered why your prayers don't work or you don't feel like you know how to pray, you must pick up this book. It is practical. It gets to the heart of the matter. It's discerning. Wonderful book. Susan has written other books called Divine Revelation, Explore Meditation, Exploring Chakras, Exploring Auras, Hear Voice God, Ascension, and Chakras Coloring Book. And there's more coming. She lectures all over the world and teaches. She's a doctor of divinity. She's lived all over the world, including the Himalayas and the Alps. She is a former student of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. She has a lot to share with us today about her life, her transformation, the transformation of all of us, and how prayer is scientific. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Susan Shumsky to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm excited about your book. I really am.
That's great.
I consider myself a metaphysician, but so many times I've been in conversation with people talking about why their prayers don't work. I've usually written prayers for them, but your book really takes the cake. I want to talk a little bit about the context for this. I want to go back to that terrible accident in your life when you had your leg crushed and almost severed in half. You were financially devastated, and you had not only an epiphany, but you had a life change from there. Talk about that a little bit.
The thing is that I was following inner guidance. That's the way that I operate. I live on blind faith and inner guidance. And I was guided to get a job as a security guard at a place where my trailer was parked at the time. I had an Airstream trailer, one of those silver bullet-looking things.
Yeah.
And I got this job as a security guard because I was following guidance, and that went on very, very well for about a year. And then all of a sudden, my inner guidance changed, and it said that I should quit the job. But because of my lack of faith at that moment, because I was just being stubborn, I decided to keep the job. But unfortunately, that wasn't such a good idea because the very next night that I decided to do that, I was closing the gates at the end of the night, and this huge giant gate fell on top of me, and my leg was caught under it. And I had to have 4 operations, and it was a huge, horrible thing that happened to me. But if I had just followed my inner guidance, my inner teachers or ascended masters within me, angels, whatever you want to call it, God within me, would have prevented that accident because I was told not to continue that job. And even after one night, there was someone who was supposed to relieve me, and I said that I had to go and teach a meditation class, and so I did that, and so I abandoned my post, and then I was fired, and then I begged for my job back, believe it or not, going against inner guidance again. And then the very next night, this horrible thing happened to me. So obviously I learned that it's really important to follow the still small voice within, and that is really the most important thing we can do, is to follow inner guidance. And as a result of that, I was even more avid and more firm about following my inner guidance. And sometimes that's not so easy to do. Sometimes it's very challenging to do that. Obviously, in this case, it was extremely challenging, and I didn't do it. And as a result, I had this accident. So, yes, that was a big epiphany for me because even though I thought I was following inner guidance, obviously I wasn't so obedient as I thought I was.
Now, when you say inner guidance, are you talking about a hunch, words that come into your head, a feeling to go a particular direction, whether it defies your reasonable mind or not? What do you mean by the inner guidance?
Well, it is that still small voice of God within, and it could be one of 3 things. It could be a voice, it could be a vision, or it could be a feeling. Different people get that inner voice in different ways, and some people don't really get a voice, but I actually do get a voice. That God speaks to me in a still small voice. And obviously I got this guidance loud and clear, quit the job, and I kept getting it for several months, but I did not obey. And I kept thinking, well, if I quit that silly minimum wage job, I will starve to death. I'm going to be completely financially devastated. I won't have any money. But if I had just had the faith to follow the guidance, then I would not have had the accident, obviously. I would have prevented the accident.
But the guidance, sometimes it makes sense, but sometimes it's counter to what our reasonable analytical mind tells us we should be doing.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's why it's challenging. It's not that difficult to open up to hear the voice. It's really not that difficult to learn how to discern between the true voice of Spirit and the other voices in your mind. But what is really challenging is to follow the guidance.
You say that the higher self usually knows best, and that we should pray for something, demand it, set a goal, follow our guidance, follow through with action, and expect miracles. It sounds very much like a recipe for a great soup.
Spiritual soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that, a lot of people, they do what I call, they pray backwards. Praying backwards would be like maybe you went to see the movie or you read the book, The Secret, and so you want to use the law of attraction, right? So you make a big laundry list. This is what I want, blah, 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 blah. You make your long list, all these things, these material things that you want in your life. Now, there's nothing wrong with praying for material things, but what that person did when they made their laundry list is they forgot one step. And that most important step is to, first of all, find out what is highest wisdom for you to pray for in the first place. So it's really important to ask for inner guidance, to ask Spirit what is highest wisdom for me to pray for, and then make your laundry list.
That's very interesting. Even when asking Spirit for that, which seems like the right thing to do, it doesn't mean we know how to listen for the response.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to people about that who may be able to follow that part of the toolkit, but then how do you know what to pay attention to and what has the real gravity?
Exactly. So that's why Miracle Prayer isn't the only book I've written. I also wrote two really fabulous books. One is called Divine Revelation, and another is called How to Hear the Voice of God. And those two books help anyone to learn how to clearly and precisely hear that divine voice. And as I said, I'll reiterate, that is that there are three basic ways that we receive that voice. It could be a voice, it could be a vision, or it could be a feeling. But when we get some practice with that, then it's really easy for us to contact Spirit and to receive the divine message clearly. So that's another really important component to the entire spiritual life. It isn't enough just to pray. It's also equally as important to learn how to hear the divine voice and to be in contact and direct communication with God.
I wish these books were clipped together. How to Hear the Voice of God and A Miracle Prayer are snapped into one.
Well, that would be a very long, fat book.
Indeed, indeed. You talk about writing on paper as if you have unlimited resource. What would you do with your time if resources were completely unlimited and available to you, which I thought was fantastic because most people can't even go there. They're so stuck in their day-to-day.
That can help you to discover your divine purpose. If you took a moment to write a list of everything that you would do in your life if you had unlimited resource, unlimited time, unlimited help, unlimited emotional stability, unlimited vision, unlimited intelligence. If you had all of that, what would you do every day? What would you do with your time? Because many people, their entire time or basis for acting is only economic. They work to make a living, quote unquote, and they're not thinking about what would I do if I didn't have to make a living. So if you do that exercise, sit down and just make that list, what would you do? Then you would get in touch with